Okay, Casey, you're a filmmaker. Have you always wanted to be a filmmaker?
No, I haven't always wanted to be a filmmaker. Should I look at you directly? Sorry.
Whatever you feel comfortable with.
Okay.
But just don't look back and forth.
Okay, I'll look at you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, no, I haven't always wanted to be a filmmaker. I have always wanted to be a writer since I was very little. I wrote stories and spent a lot of hours playing with my dollhouse and making up elaborate characters and things like that. So, but yeah, then I stumbled on the Harvard Square scriptwriters and was like, oh, this is interesting, making films out of my writing and bringing more people on and just having more of a collaborative community sort of process. So I think that's what drew me to film somewhat more recently.
Was there an event you say, I think I want to do this?
Yeah, I was in graduate school at Babson. I was doing an MBA program, and I just was feeling a little bit like I was really craving a creative outlet, and so I thought that this would be a really cool project to sort of have some deadlines around and constraints around, to try to apply for a grant and try to have a deadline to finish a project and try to really bring on other collaborators, because I can be really shy and struggle to share my work and just kind of get into the details by myself. So I thought that it was a good way to challenge myself, basically.
So before Babson, where were you?
Before Babson, I was working at a small composting business in Boston called Sero Co-op. It was a women and people of color owned business, and it was also a worker owned co-op. So it was the workers of the business, if you went through an education process and were there for a certain amount of time, you were eligible to become an owner and share in the profits. So I eventually did become an owner of that business. I left shortly thereafter to go back to graduate school, but that was what I was doing prior.
So I said you were really into compost.
I wasn't really into compost. I was more into the idea of the business. I was more oh, this is really cool that everyone can own it and potentially share in profits and things like that. I was more into the ideas behind the business, and I thought hey, composting, it's not the worst thing you could be doing with your time. It's one of the better activities that you could spend your day thinking about.
Where were you were in school before that though?
Before that I was an 8th grade teacher.
Really?
In Philadelphia. Yeah. So I did that just for a year. And then I worked for 6 months as a mental health counselor here. And then I worked at the composting business for 2 years. And then I went back to grad school.
Actually, I think junior high is the toughest grade.
Oh, it was so tough, dude. It was it was so profound in so many ways. It was super cool. But it was who's the adult in the room type of situation. I feel they would be saying things yeah, I hate the principal, and I'd be yeah, me too, but I wouldn't say that out loud, you know what I mean? I don't know, it was I think I was it was a weird position to be in, I guess, kind of.
You've actually had a fairly large gap between
school,
your
college.
BFA and
yeah, but grad school, I had 4 years or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I think that was good for me because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So.
Is your BFA in English or writing?
English, yeah. Mm-hmm. English and education. So, okay. Yeah.
And so I assume you did a fair amount of writing in there.
Yes, yeah.
Did you ever get into screenplays there?
No, I took mostly short fiction workshops. I had a teacher named Max Apple who was very old at the time. He was probably pushing 80. And he was absolutely a devastating critic. He was so brutal when it came to feedback. He
Oh,
made people cry regularly in the workshops. I remember this one time that a man cried because Max called his story pornographic and a jeans ad or a Gap jeans ad, and this poor man was just in tears. But Max was also really funny because before the class, he would give everyone like cookies, and he would be like, does anybody have gossip?
Sorry.
No, it's okay. So yeah, he would be like gossiping, and he would be like asking for our gossip, and so people would just like tell these really silly stories. And you would kind of get to know people in the workshop and start to like feel comfortable, which was really cool. Like I've always really loved workshops and like feeling known like while I'm making art and like sharing art and doing the same for other people. And so I loved that. That was like a very formative experience for me.
Well, nobody's ever cried at a Harvard Square script writing.
Is that true?
Yes.
That's funny. No,
they've quit afterwards, but they've never actually cried in the meeting.
That's an accomplishment. That's an accomplishment for sure. Yeah.
So you heard about Harvard scriptwriters.
Yeah.
Did you have an idea already?
For a script, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't remember, to be honest. I think I started going to meetings in like 2021. I'm not like always the most frequent flyer there, but I feel like when I do come, everybody's like, hey Casey, what's going on? How you been? And I'm like, I love you guys. I missed you. I'm just really chaotic and just like bouncing around. So it feels like coming home in a sense. But yeah, I don't think I had an idea. I think one thing that I've wanted to do was to like finish a feature script and just be able to, I think, like work through a lot of the sort of like mental struggle that is like sticking with a longer piece and like seeing it to its completion, even if it's not perfect. I think I've really struggled with that. So I think the writing group has been really helpful to see other people do that and to like provide constructive feedback and see other people providing constructive feedback and like, yeah, just like thinking about longer form work and stuff. So
when I think of filmmaking, I do not think of Babson, although it's actually, I think it's a surprisingly good idea.
Yeah.
So tell me why Babson?
Well, when I was applying to graduate school, I was very interested in the idea of like social entrepreneurship, of like businesses for like the common good, and like how can we like reimagine the way that we're like consuming things and exchanging things. Like I'm like an anti-capitalist, and so like people are like, why did you choose to go to business school? And I was like, that's a great question. I think a big part of it was like realizing that you can, like, giving myself permission to like have financial stability and like not like be able to make some compromises in my work life, that, you know, like I don't have to do things that are like martyr sort of like things. Like you can just like do a job and like it can be like morally ambiguous, but you can like be like, it can be okay because that's just the world that we live in, kind of. So I think as I was moving through Babson, I was like, honestly, I wasn't seeing social entrepreneurship like practiced in the way that I like maybe imagined it, or like thought that like I wasn't seeing it practiced as I had like been interested in it. It was like being practiced in ways that I didn't necessarily agree with. Yeah, so I think it was important to me to go there and have that year of experience where it was like, okay, we're like learning all these things and it's kind of hard to like integrate these with your values, but it's like, okay, like you can like live in this world and you can partake in these systems, and that doesn't make you like inherently bad or something like that.
Now Babson at least pays lip service to being socially conscious. What do you think about that?
You're gonna be in trouble.
You've gotten your diploma, I assume.
I got my diploma already, yeah. What I will say is that I had a tremendous experience with the art department at Babson, like with the Babson Arts department that provided me with this grant, and like the grant administrator, Leslie, who like really was just like there to talk through the whole process and like support me as like an artist and like a person who like was like, hey, I'm just like kind of struggling, and like, can you help me find like an artistic outlet or something, you know what I mean? So like that was like wonderful, and I've met like friends at Babson that are amazing, and like like just wonderful people trying to do amazing things in the world. As an institution, like, I think that it, you know, it's working within systems that are oppressive, and, you know, it's like, yeah, like as an institution, like it's your typical like college kind of, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think they're doing anything particularly good. But they're like, also there are amazing people who are like trying really hard to do cool things, you know?
Well, Babson specializes in entrepreneurship, which is very needed for filmmakers.
Yeah. True.
Especially if they have their own particular vision.
True.
Did you learn any lessons there that you found particularly
Definitely. Useful? Yeah, definitely. 100%. Right now I'm working on producing a feature film, as we've mentioned. And so the feature film is written and directed by Daniel Blake Schwartz, who's a local filmmaker. It's about the opioid crisis and about like the concept of chosen family, and so it's like a narrative feature about like with an ensemble cast, kind of about a group of addicts living in Boston on the streets and how their lives intertwine. And it's serious, like it's a serious film, and he has like an interesting vision, and so I've been like producing it, so I've been doing a lot of organizational work and like figuring out how to like make things happen, I guess. How to get the budget together, and how to like cast, and how to do all these things with like, you know, how to like just everything, just all the things that need to be done to actually make a film happen. So I think you definitely need like an entrepreneurial mindset for that, and it has been helpful to have that background for sure. So I do think that is a very valuable thing, and it wasn't necessarily something that I was like thinking about when I started at Babson, but it's something that I am grateful for. So it's a great point.
How are you making ends meet now?
I work at a software company.
Oh,
Yeah.
What do you do there?
I do like accounting, finance type of stuff.
Great, you can do that.
Yeah, it's been good for me to have that stability and like regular schedule, I think. It's certainly not my life's passion, but it pays the bills, and it allows me to make my art, and I don't know, it's like been okay so far, so.
He's waiting tables.
Yeah, it beats a lot of things. Like, it beats teaching 8th graders.
So tell me about, now I'm still a little sketchy about how Babson decided, let's give this young lady a grant to make her movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, like, it was actually, like, the largest grant that Babson has ever awarded through this art department grant thing. I think it was because I had such a vision for it, and, like, was coming in possibly even looking a bit, like, crazy, you know, being like, you know, here I am, I'm, this is who I am, like, you know, yeah, I'm a business student, but I'm really disillusioned with it all, and I came in disillusioned with it all, and, you know, here's what I'm trying to do, like, you know, like, I didn't have, like, a traditional story, and I kind of stuck out like a sore thumb in a lot of ways, just in general, in business school. But yeah, like, Leslie really trusted me, and was like, you are, like, trying to do something, and, like, I want to, like, marshal the resources that we have to try to help you, even if that means, like, going outside of the box, or, like, giving more money than, like, we had given, or, like, reimagining what this grant is or could be. That totally changed my Babson experience in like a positive way. Like it was like awesome for me to have someone like recognize me as an artist and be like, I trust you to like take these resources and like do something with them. And like it was just like very powerful for me as someone who's been really afraid to share my art and like do anything beyond like just the writing in my own bedroom or something like that. So yeah, that was really cool.
It sounds great.
Yeah.
Sounds like Babson was actually listening.
Totally. In ways that I like wasn't expecting. Like, yeah. Like I think I was like expecting to come in and be really like engaged in like dialogue about like capitalism and like be around similar or like maybe more similar people that I'd been around in the co-op movement, where it was like people who were like, how can we like reimagine the way that we're like doing monetary exchange, and like how can we like transform these systems from being exploitative to being like cooperative. And like I just didn't feel that deep level of dialogue at Babson. It was more like, how can we make a startup that like gets us rich and also like reduces the plastic going into the ocean or something. And it just didn't feel like the same thing. But like to have found funding for my art was like quite literally like transformative for me and helped me in ways that I like really needed like personally. So I think like that was amazing, and for that reason, like yes, like I do give Babson credit for that, like that exists and that there are people there who can do that, you know.
Now, did you actually have a story at that point to pitch them, or?
I had a script. Yeah, I had a script. I had like a 15-page script. I kind of knew that I couldn't take on anything longer than a short, being my first film. And so I knew I wanted to make one, and I was just like, well, maybe I'll just make it in my house with my friends. It was like a camera I buy for a few $100s, and then it just kind of got a little bit bigger. So yeah, that was kind of how it happened.
So where did the story come from?
Story came from my own personal experience. The story's about like a queer, like non-binary person who is in a polyamorous or like non-monogamous relationship and also struggles with like mental illness, specifically like obsessive compulsive disorder, and is finding their mental illness like really aggravated by the polyamorous relationship, but also like they feel love for their partner. So it's like, yeah, it's just about queerness and mental health, and was like very much like a healing thing to write and like direct and act out, and because it's like processing my own experiences, sort of.
So this is your first film. What did you think of the experience of making a film is broken up into a lot of different parts, especially if it's your first film? What did you think of it then? What parts you like? What parts you not like?
Well, I really liked writing. I feel like that's the part that's just like you can just be like free, and like you can put things down that are bad and it doesn't matter, and there's something really freeing about that. I liked producing the film as well. I liked organizing everything like after the writing process, and even in the revision process it felt really satisfying to be like balancing out the open-endedness of like writing and being creative with like the sort of like rote organizational tasks of like lining up a sound recordist and a director of photography and like a location and actors. And like I was working in the early mornings at a gym, so I was like waking up at like 4:30 in the mornings like almost every day, and like driving to the gym, and like I would work at the front desk, and I would do my producer work like in the early morning, and it was so nice. I was like, I understand why like all of these artists like have like gotten into these routines where they wake up at like 5 a.m. and like write, and then they like go about their day, because I just felt really clear-headed and I could just do it for that period of time, and I was like, oh my god, I did this thing, and then I would just go about the rest of my day. So that I liked. And I like directing as well. I feel like directing, I feel like I need a lot more practice to be really effective at it. But I liked it, and I liked reimagining for myself, like how a director can act or something, because I feel like a lot of directors that I've seen, or maybe the stereotype about directors is that they're like the person like at the front of the room being like, do this and do that and do this and do that, and like maybe they're even a little bit too like controlling, or maybe they can be abusive or manipulative or something. And like I didn't feel that way on set. I feel like everyone was like making their own decisions in a lot of ways, and sometimes that came back to bite me, because you know there are little technical errors or things that are like, I'm like, oh, that's not right. But on the other hand, I'm like, I want everybody involved to like feel like they're owning this in a way. So yeah, I don't know, like directing was cool. It was kind of like teaching and figuring out like, how do you run a classroom? Like, is it really that thing where you're at the front of the room talking, or is it more effective when everybody is like having agency and like doing their own thing, sort of. So I really liked that, I guess. So those were the things I liked. And I didn't like editing. I can't imagine ever like it's just too tedious, and I'm really bad at technology as well. For like someone my age, I'm like terrible at it. So
what about the casting process?
I liked casting. I definitely liked casting, for sure. I'm in the casting process again right now. I'm liking it a little bit less this time. Not because of anything that... I don't exactly know why. I just think it's just hard. The casting process is hard, and I think it was a little bit easier when I only was casting 3 people, but now we're casting like 20 plus people, and it's like hard. But I like it. I don't mind it.
And you met Dan at Harvard Scriptwriters, right?
Yeah, I met Dan at Harvard Scriptwriters. Yes, you kind of introduced me to yeah, which is like awesome. Yeah, it's been very cool to work with Dan. He's further ahead in his sort of like experience making films, and he's made 3 shorts that have played at festivals, and he's made a proof of concept for this feature that has played at festivals. And he has a real like artistic vision for his work. And so it's cool to be around that energy and to be welcomed into the decision-making process around like a project that is serious and that he's taking seriously. So that has been really cool for me. It's been like, I just feel like every time I share, like, I feel like this is true of anyone. I'm not saying it's specific to me, but I do feel like one thing I've learned is, like, one of the great benefits of, like, sharing your work is that even if it's not perfect, like, people will try to reach out to each other, and, like, try to, like, they can relate to each other's work, and they can engage with it, and they can find things about it that they are excited about. And so I've, like, it's been very cool to, like, share my work and have people be, like, excited about certain things, and then be like, here's this opportunity, like, you know. And the work didn't have to be perfect for people to be like, here's this opportunity, like, let's do something that could be really rewarding. So I think that's been cool about the relationship with Dan, is, like, you know, I've showed him my film, and, like, I've been like, here are all my insecurities about it, and he's been like, that's okay, and, like, I, like, come on in, and, like, let's do this thing, and, like, this new thing has, like, pushed me and helped me grow, and, like, so it's just been very rewarding to, like, push past that limitation of, like, not sharing any work, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So I guess this project is your next thing, right?
Yeah.
But are you working on another script or another feature?
Yeah, I'm working on another script. Yeah, it's funny. I went to this, like, sapphic writing group a couple weeks ago, and I, like, was telling my idea to people, and they were looking at me like I had, like, 5 heads. They were like, you're crazy, and I was like, Yeah, I know I'm crazy,
I would
but
think a group like that would be very close-minded.
right? I know. I was like, come on. I feel like the boomers at HSSW are more down with the cause of my weird ideas. Like everybody's like, that's fine, whatever. All right. A little weird, but it's fine. So anyway, yeah, like I have a lot of trouble. Again, like I've said, I really want to write something that's longer. It's just a personal goal of mine. Like, I don't know, I just feel really, like, driven to do that. But I've really struggled with, like, plot and structure, as you know. I've struggled to, like, I think I, imagine these worlds or whatever, but I don't always imagine, like, them in, like, a 3-act structure, and I struggle to, like, just not have my characters, like, moving around and just mumbling and chatting and vibing, which is, you know what I mean? Like, that's just kind of how I naturally come to writing. And so I've been trying to challenge myself to engage a little bit more with, like, plot and structure and being more intentional about that. And so one thing that I've been enjoying, and we'll see how it goes, but I really love, like, Sean Baker's movies, as we were talking about. I've been rewatching Tangerine a bunch because I just, like, love that movie, and I love so, like, just for context, it's, like, about 2 trans sex workers. It takes place in, like, one evening in, like, it's, like, Christmas Eve or Christmas Day in Los Angeles, and one of them has, like, just gotten out of jail, and the other one has slept with her boyfriend while she was in jail, and so the one who was in jail doesn't know that her best friend, like, cheated with her boyfriend. And so it's, like, this whole unfolding drama of, like, figuring that out, and, like, will the friendship survive it, and, like, does it matter, and la la la, and it's just, like, this almost, like, classic, like, drama in some way, and it's, like, it has, like, all the elements of, like, it's unfolding in a day, like, it's just, like, it's really neat drama in my mind, and really effective, and I felt like it produced, like, a really good emotional, like, I, like, felt, like, that pathos of, like, almost, like, Greek tragedy stuff where I'm like, this is, like, the perfect Greek tragedy almost. I know it's, like, a kind of a hot take that, anyway, but so I've also been, like, trying to write from my own experiences and not from other people's experiences so much. Like, I want to, like, convey, like, my community, and, like, I feel like I'm immersed in, like, queer and trans community, and there's a lot of, like I don't necessarily feel super comfortable writing outside of my experience, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Because it's, like, I don't want to misrepresent someone else's experience, and also there's a lot to mine in the experiences of myself and my community. Like, I don't think I need to go outside of it, and I think it's more true to my style and, like, what I can say about the world if I stick to, like, that. So anyway, long-winded, but so I'm like, right now I'm, like, going through Tangerine, I'm going scene by scene, and I'm, like, making beats, and I'm, like, also making beats of this story that I've been imagining, which is kind of like Tangerine, but just reimagined, about, like, 2 young, like, trans masculine people at, like, an all-girls Catholic school, and they're 2 of, like, the only out gay people who are, like, dealing with, like, weirdness around gender, and one of them sleeps with the other one's girlfriend, and the drama is again unfolding, like, in the course of a day at school, and then, like, after school, and, like, yeah, going to an all-girls Catholic school was very, like, formative for me, and, like, being someone who experienced, like, gender dysphoria, and also, but it was also, like, a very homophobic place, and, like, I think there's, like, pathos inherent in that experience, or that there's, like, something worth, like, writing about in that experience, and it also is, like, true to my own experiences. It doesn't feel like I'm, like, taking someone else's thing and trying to use it to, like, you know what I mean? So that's what I've been working on right now. Thanks for asking. I feel like that's the thing that I'm, like, really excited about right now, but I'm also really excited about Dan's project, and it helps to, like, I feel like I've said, having the order and the chaos, like, having the order of, like, producing, and, like, being like, okay, this, that, we're lining things up, we have dates, this and that, and whatever, and then having the chaos of, like, early drafts of writing, like, they balance each other out and it feels good. So I've been like enjoying both of them, I guess. So.
Okay. Anything else we should talk about?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
I think
well,
we
thank
covered
you so much.
it.
That was
yeah.
great.
Yeah. Thank you. This was
All right.
fun.